Hello everyone, welcome back to Webnestify channel. Today we are diving into the PenPot, the first open source platform for design and prototyping. Whether you are a designer, developer, or part of a cross-functional team, PenPot is here to revolutionize how you collaborate on creative projects. PenPot isn't just another design tool. It's built for freedom and flexibility, offering the ability to self-host, making it ideal for those who value privacy and control. Its powerful features like SVG-native design, real-time collaboration, and support for design systems make it a true alternative to proprietary tools like Figma. But what really sets PenPot apart? It's open source and completely free. You can use it as a cloud service on PenPot official platform, or for tech-savvy among us, self-host on your own infrastructure for complete control. That's exactly what we will be exploring today, how to install PenPot using Docker. But if you are curious about what PenPot can do, feature-wise, I highly recommend checking the fantastic video by WP Toots, where he did an in-depth walkthrough of PenPot features. It's a great way to get a solid overview of why PenPot is quickly becoming a favorite in the design community. I link his video in the description below, so make sure to give it a watch after the tutorial. So in this video, I'll guide you step by step how to set up your own PenPot instance using Docker. By the end of this, you will have fully functional self-hosted design and prototyping platform that's ready to go. So if you are ready to explore the world of open source design and take control over your workflow, let's get started with PenPot. So to deploy a PenPot, you just have to follow my written guide that you can find in my documentation portal. And you can also read a little bit more, some features, but you need to take care of the prerequisites. It's recommended to use a VPS with at least 4 GB of RAM. You will see in the server preparation. And also I really like to use Hetzner, which is my go-to cloud provider. And if you use this link, you can get 20 euros or dollars to get started with Hetzner. And then you just need to follow, write the Docker Compose file. I will talk a little bit more when we're gonna edit this file. And yeah, that's basically it. We're gonna use Cerberus Proxy Caddy, but you can use Nginx Proxy Manager or even Cloudflare tunnels. This is completely up to you. But nowadays I like to use Caddy. So let's prepare our servers and then we will take a look on this configuration. So we have our server prepared. We deploy Ubuntu 24.04 LTS release. I installed Docker, and also I created my local user, which I will be connecting because to follow best security standards, you want to disable root login and add your SSH keys. If you don't know how to do it, this workflow, I also created a tutorial how you can become an SSH master, and you can also find it in the description to get started with really good SSH workflow and management. So let's begin to SSH to our server, and I'm using VS Codium, which is open source alternative to VS Code. And this workflow is really great if you're managing custom code and those kind of things. So you don't need to have open multiple sessions, and you can code and deploy straight away from your code editor. So let's open connect to my new server that I deployed. And by default, what you want to do, you want to open folder and you want to open your home directory on the server. So let's click OK. And on the left side, you can see the folder structure. And what we need to do, we need to create a new folder, which will be PenPot. And in the PenPot, you want to also create new folder for database. So we're gonna just name it to database. And now we can just create a new file in the main PenPot directory. Gonna be docker compose.yaml. And here we have our docker compose file. So let me go back to my local machine, and we're gonna copy this docker compose file, which you can also find in my documentation portal. So let's switch back here. And now let's a little bit talk about this configuration file. So first, at the beginning, we have networks, which it will create its own network for the PenPot. Then we have volumes, which will create volume for PenPot assets. If you want to upload images, templates, plugins, everything will be stored in this volume. And then we have some front-end services, which will be the front end, the website, which we expose on port 80, and internal port will be port 9001. If you have this in use, you can choose to add a different one. You don't need to worry, because we're gonna also install the reverse proxy, which will automatically generate the SSL certificate. And also here we specified volume for assets, and that's pretty it. Environment variables, I enable login with password to be on the more secure side. And then we're gonna talk a little bit more about the PenPot backend, basically the application behind the front end. Again, we specify the volume, and it will depend on the Postgres database and also Redis. The same network, and most crucial things is environment. As you can see, first we have the PenPot flags, which we want to enable registration. We enable login with password, and also we enable email verification. Then we enable SMTP, because if you want to invite team members, you will need to have an email, because we specify the email verification. Then is enable prep server, that is for if you using this on the public IP, which most of us do. And also I added to enable email whitelist, because by default anyone can register to your PenPot instance, but for obvious reason we don't want to have that. So next is PenPot registration domain whitelist, and here in the square brackets you can also see there is what you can do, and here you can whitelist your domains that you want to be able to register. So let me just add mine, like webnestify.com, and another domain will be comma separated, so it can be webnestify.cloud, but your domains may vary. Now we need to generate the PenPot secret key, and we need to generate it with this following command. So let's copy this command, Let's open a terminal. And let me make this bigger. We can paste it. And now we can copy this directly from the server terminal. And we need to paste it here. PenPot prep host, you can leave it on the local host. Now you want to add your public domain that you want to serve the PenPot. So it will be https pen.webnestify.com. Next, we don't need to change this. We don't need to database username, but we need to change the database password. And again, it will be the same generated value as Postgres variable. So let's scroll down to the database, as you can see. And here you will need to also generate the password for the database. So let me copy that command, paste it again. And we're gonna copy this value. We're gonna replace the square brackets. And also we need to add the password here. Otherwise, you won't be able to connect to the PenPot database. So let's paste the password. For this, we don't need to change anything. And for the SMTP, if you are using Postmark, it's very easy to add. You can just add your email addresses and API keys. And that's basically it. If you are using any other providers, I think you also can add those API keys here. So it doesn't matter which SMTP provider you have, but you will need to add those values there in order to receive the email verification and invite your team members. And I think that's pretty it. And yes, let me pause it. I'm gonna add my own SMTP details. So I have added my SMTP details. And one last thing, what we need to change is the volume for the Postgres database. I like to keep the PG database in a folder for easy backup and management, just in case. But here you will need to change to your user. I'm currently logged in as Webnestify, and when I do pwd, it will be home, Webnestify. Then we go to PenPot, cd PenPot. And here is the database folder. And this path needs to be in this line, so it can store the Postgres data in this folder. And that's it. Let me save this. Let me make it bigger. And when we navigate back, now we are going to start the installation of our PenPot. Let me zoom in. So it will be docker compose upd. We specify -d to be in detached mode, because if we close this terminal window, it will also stop the application. And then we want to also see the logs for the PenPot. So it will be docker compose logs -f. So we will follow those logs. Hit enter. And now the PenPot will begin download, and then it will install. And as you can see, everything went right. And we can now close this window by Ctrl+C. And last thing that we need to do to become on HTTPS on our public domain is we need to install our caddy and also change the configuration file for the caddy. So let me elevate myself to the root. And when you go to my documentation, you have one-click command to install the caddy reverse proxy. Let me go back to our terminal. Let me install it. And in the meantime, what we can do, we can copy and edit the caddy file, which will store our configuration for the domain. Okay, let me close this. We're gonna remove everything what's there. Hold on, let me grab the default config and we paste it there. And what you need to change here is your domain. So it will be pen.webnestify.com, and you can keep this as default, but if you change your port, you will need to change port also here. Control O and enter, and Control X to exit. And now we need to restart the KDE service. So system control, restart KDE. Okay, and also VS Code also pick it up that we have this now available on port 443. So let me check the status. System control status KDE. And we can see that our SSL certificate was successfully installed. But before you add this KDE config, you will need to add the server IP, add a DNS record to your DNS registrar. There's no need to go over it because it is pretty simple and straightforward. Okay, and yeah, we should now be able to visit our PenPot. So now we go to pen.webnestify.com. Now what we need to do is to create our account. So as you remember, in the configuration, we only allowed registered domains, the domain whitelist. So you will need to choose only that domain email address. So it will be simon@webnestify.cloud. And you can specify some password. And now we will need to create our account. You're gonna name yourself. And now we're gonna need to verify our email address because we said it in the flags that we need to verify those email addresses. And as you can see, we have received the email. So let me just open it. And now our email address has been verified successfully. So when you first time log in, you will need to answer a couple questions. So you can use this for work, testing before self-hosting. You can choose whatever you want. And here you can specify which tool you are using the most. So let's just do Figma. Let's just answer those questions. And I think this can be disabled with the telemetry, but I'm not really sure. Okay, let's do event start. And you can receive the PenPot news if you want. And yeah, we can continue without the team. Continue, and that's it. So now you are in your main PenPot dashboard. All right, so let me, for example, just create a team. So if you are a team of designers in your company, you can do example team. And here in the menu, you can invite members, but remember to only invite members on the domain whitelisted that you add in the configuration file. Otherwise, you can send invite to any IP address, any email address, but they won't be able to register their account. For a simple reason, we enable the domain whitelist. And here you can invite those users. That's pretty self-explanatory. All right. And as you can see, you can add your library. And you can open this. For example, you can add your wireframe library from the PenPot repository. It was imported. And yeah, you can upload your custom fonts, which will be stored on your server. But let me just open this. And yeah, you have like interface like on the official PenPot or Figma, etc. And also you can install the plugins. So you will need to open a plugin list. And to install plugins on your self-hosted instance, you will need open the plugin list and you will need to copy the installation URL. Then you go to PenPot, paste it, and you want to allow it, and now you have your plugin. Let me open it, and you have your icons. Alright, so yeah, I think that's it, and let's wrap things up. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and you are now ready to explore the amazing possibilities with PenPot. If you followed along, your self-hosted PenPot instance should be up and running. For more detailed instructions and resources, make sure to check out Webnestify documentation portal, where I have outlined everything step by step to make the process even easier. And if you really enjoy using PenPot and want to support this fantastic open source project, consider using their official software as a service solution. It's a great way to give back and ensure the continued development of such an amazing tool. And if you need help with the installation or security on anything else related to self-hosting, feel free to contact me through Webnestify contact page. I'm always happy to assist. And also, don't forget to join the Webnestify community on our Discord server. It's a great place to connect, ask questions, and get support from fellow self-hosting enthusiasts. You can find the link to Discord server in the description below. And as always, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Webnestify channel, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss any future tutorials. Until next time, happy self-hosting.